how's it going? My name's Joe, and today I want to show you my latest custom action figure. It's Magik from Marvel's X-Men comics. So in case you're wondering, hey Joe, Hasbro did an official Magik figure a few years ago, why didn't you just pick that one up? Well, the reason is because that was part of a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive box set called the Book of Vishanti, I think, and it came with 3 Doctor Strange figures I didn't really want. It was pretty expensive, and on the secondary market, this Magik figure by herself goes for buku bucks, way more than I wanted to spend. I originally intended for this to be a work in progress type video. I'd work on the figure a little bit, then I'd make a short video clip showing you my progress. I'd work on the figure a little bit more, make another small video, and then I would edit them together so you could see the whole process from start to finish. Unfortunately, I tripped over one of the legs of my tripod, my camera fell and hit the ground and broke, and so while I was waiting on a new camera to show up in the mail, I just went ahead and finished the figure. However, I did get one video clip filmed before I broke my camera, and in this clip you'll see the parts that I used to make this custom Magik figure. So without further ado, here we go. Alright, when I first saw photos online of this Nico figure, I thought immediately that she'd be a good base body for a custom Magik figure. I'm a member of Toy Arc forums, and based on what I was reading there, I thought she'd be a lot harder to find than she turned out to be. It seemed like everybody on the forums, at least, was planning on picking one up. So I bought her the first time I saw her, which turned out to be a mistake, because unfortunately she turned out to be a peg warmer. She's actually a really cool figure on her own, and if I knew more about the character, then I would have bought one to keep as it is, and then another one to customize. She's got really nice articulation, paint, and a lot of new sculpting detail. The reason I chose her as a base body for Magik is because I like the frame. She's a little petite, and that's kind of what I have in my mind when I think of Magik. A little younger, or at least smaller frame. She's also got this alternate arm that has armor sculpted on it, and so that's going to save me some trouble sculpting. And I really like these boots, like the sculpting on the side here. I really like that a lot, so that's why I chose her. I picked up this Mockingbird figure on clearance, which is a good thing. She's a crap figure. Like, I like the character just fine, but this figure sucks. She was hard to find for a little while, and then I guess everybody realized how lame she was, and now she's pretty readily available. But basically the only reason I bought her was because of her hair, the long blonde hair. This one in particular, man, it just has a lot of bad paint on it, and I don't like the way, see, like her legs are lined up like that, right? But if you lined up the seams, like the costume detail, then it makes her look all knock-kneed and weird. So, like, I don't know, she sucks. But she's got really cool boots. Like, she's cool from the knee down, but that's about it. In fact, I think I might swap these knees out, these knee pads out, and put them on Nico for my Magik custom. But anyways, so I already took the hair off so I could swap them out and see what she would look like. So when I took the hair off of the Mockingbird figure, I accidentally ripped it a little bit on each side here, which is no big deal because I'm gonna have to use some sculpting clay to fill in these gaps here that were to accommodate Mockingbird's goggles. So I'm gonna have to fill that in anyway. So while I'm at it, I'm gonna sculpt some more bangs, and I'll fix that little cut that I made. There she is so far, and this is the sword I've come up with. I don't know. This is a kind of an old janky sword from a Mego Conan the Barbarian figure. Alright, so here's my custom Magik figure all finished up. Magik was created by Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum. She's a really powerful sorceress, and she has the ability to teleport through space and time. And a lot of times it seems like in the comics she's using her soul sword to cut portals for herself and her companions, and that's what I tried to recreate here with these effects pieces. Alright, so when I first got into this character, it was around 2010, 2011, I think, in Uncanny X-Men. This is after Schism, after House of M. The mutant population is decimated. The X-Men have broken up. Wolverine, Storm, Beast, Iceman, and Kitty Pryde, they have formed the Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters in Westchester. And Cyclops has his own team, living in seclusion on an island that consists of Emma Frost, Colossus, Magik here, a reformed Magneto, Namor, and Hope Summers. And they're doing the superhero thing too. That's when I started getting into this character. That's what I had in mind when I did this custom figure as far as the costume went. It's not exactly what she wore in the comics then. So these costume details on this custom figure are based on how she looked when I first got into the character during that Uncanny X-Men run. There are a few differences though. If I was more dedicated to making a accurate custom figure, a little less lazy, then I could have sanded down the corset detail on her midriff there and painted that flesh tone and sculpted the cleavage window, but I thought this looked close enough for me, and I actually like the corset. I think it's a little bit more practical than having your stomach exposed, and you know, the cleavage window I think is pretty ridiculous when you think about it. But that's what I had in mind when I was doing the custom, was her appearance in that comic book series. And I don't think her costume is that different now. I think she made an appearance in Civil War II, is the last thing I saw with her, where she fought Black Panther for a couple minutes. So all the sculpting I did for this custom figure, I used this clay called Milliput, and it comes in a box, and inside the box are two separate tubes of clay, and you cut equal portions of each one, and you mix them together thoroughly. And after you've done that, you've got about half an hour before it starts to set up. And when it's fully set up, then it's really, really durable. And I first learned about it by watching a YouTube video where Glenn Webb customized an action figure. He did a little tutorial type deal. And if you are watching this, I'm sure you've probably already seen Glenn Webb's videos. But if not, you should go check him out. He did a lot of videos about Marvel Legends and custom figures, things like that. And he was really a cool YouTuber, seemed like a genuinely nice guy. I never met him or anything, but really sad to hear that he passed away. So that's where I got the tip to use the Milliput from, was a Glenn Webb video. All the sculpting that I did on this figure was with that Milliput. I did these fins, and a while back I made a custom figure using a Grim Reaper. I cut the fins off the Grim Reaper head and threw them away. And that was a mistake. I wish I had saved them, because that would have saved me the trouble of having to do this, because I think those would have worked really well. But I sculpted those and glued them to the side of her head. I sculpted her bangs and the hair on the sides to fill those gaps in from Mockingbird's goggles. On her left arm, I sculpted the armor bits first, and I was careful not to sculpt the shoulder pad too big, because I wanted it to clear her hair. So I sculpted those first from the elbow up to her shoulder, and then after that was done, I sculpted these spikes and I glued them on individually. And I did the same thing with the shoulder pad over on this side. I was careful not to make it too big because I wanted to retain that articulation so she could get her arms up straight. And then I sculpted her belt and her belt buckle, and aside from that, everything else on this figure is just paint. So I completely repainted her face. I actually like the flesh tone color of the Nico figure, but for the thighs and this part of her arm and her chest, I didn't think I'd be able to find a flesh tone paint that would match the flesh tone of Nico's face. So I just ended up repainting the whole thing. I repainted her eyebrows and her eyes. And instead of like the Hasbro, like the official Hasbro version, where she has the whited out eyes, I decided to make mine a little different and give her blue eyes. And I think I did pretty good. I even got the black pupil in the center and the little fleck of white off to the side to make it look like lights reflecting off of her eyes. I think the X logo on her shoulder pad turned out pretty clean. Now our armored left arm here, at first I painted it all black, and then I dry brushed it with gunmetal and then a little silver over the top of it. Then I also did the gunmetal and silver on her belt buckle and her knee pads. Alright, so I'm not an ACBA guy or anything like that. I like to have figures that are posable, but usually I get a figure, I pose it a few times until I get something that I like, and then I just pretty much leave it the way it is. But I do like to have the option, and I did try to retain as much of the original figure's articulation as possible. The neck doesn't have very good range of motion because of the hair. So she's got a little bit of side to side and a little bit of up and down, and you can tilt it a little to the side for attitude if you want. The reason why it seems a little bit floppy, I guess, is because I use this, I put the head on this paintbrush when I was painting the head and the face, and it kind of stretched out the socket inside the head. So that, if that's why it seems a little bit loose, then that's why. Like I showed you earlier, she has, you know, pretty good range of motion in her shoulders still, and despite the armor and the spikes, both shoulders I think work pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with that. Both elbows are just the same. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but this is the Mockingbird right hand. I felt like the grip on this one was a little bit better for the soul sword, so I swapped them out. Elbow on the left side, she still got her diaphragm joint, works just the same as it did before, and a little bit of side to side too, but it's a little tight. Her hips here, I don't like this hip joint, this cut joint really, and the way that these ball socket hips are designed, there's a little bit of play right there anyway, and I think that's enough. So I glued these two pieces together, or there was a hip joint there, a swivel, and but I glued that in place. She's got double jointed knee, swivel at the boot cuff, and ankle pivot, and ankle rocker. I didn't touch the boots at all. I left them just the way they were because I liked them so much. Alright, so here's Magik's soul sword, and I sculpted this broader blade with milliput right over the top of the original blade. I also sculpted this detail at the end of the hilt just to get a little extra detail, and then also to keep her hand in here so it wouldn't slip out of her hand. The milliput, it's pretty heavy, and the joints at her elbow and her wrist on her right hand aren't tight enough for her to hold this up in all the different poses that I would like. Gonna keep my eye out for a suitable replacement. Maybe I can make something that's a little bit lighter than this turned out to be. But I think it looks fine. I painted the detail on here, and I painted the hilt black and dry brushed it with gunmetal. So I'm happy with it right now, but I would like to get something that she can hold up a little bit better. Alright, so here are some X-Men figures in their costumes that they were wearing around the same time that I started reading Uncanny X-Men and started to appreciate Magik as a character. There's the Jubilee Wave Storm, there's the Puck series Wolverine, there's the Jubilee Cyclops, and then there's the Return of Marvel Legends Hope Summers. I'm sure you've got multiple figures based on this Bucky Cat mold, so that'll give you an idea of her height. Alright, here's my custom Magik figure, Illyana Rasputin, next to her big brother, Peter Rasputin, Colossus. I'm not a scale Nazi. I will defend this Marvel Select Colossus all day long. I think he looks just fine next to most Marvel Legends figures. But I will admit, he is probably too tall to go side by side with this Magik custom. Now, having said that, I'm not going to display these two characters next to each other anyway. This Colossus is in his classic costume from like the John Byrne era or the 90s, and this custom Magik figure is more like a modern version. I'm not going to have these two next to each other anyways. Because they're brother and sister, I did this comparison. Alright, so there you have it. That's my custom Magik action figure. I had a lot of fun putting her together and making this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Maybe you'll be inspired to do your own custom action figure sometime. Anyways, so until next time, take care. I'll talk to you later. Bye.